What's up, everyone? I'm out hiking in the Shining Rock Wilderness area today. I'm doing Cold Mountain. Cold Mountain is one of the Carolina Mountain Club's South Beyond 6K mountains. So working on that challenge today. I was hoping to knock out Clingman's Dome out in the Smokies, but from probably most of January, a lot of the roads in the Smokies, the Blue Ridge Parkway for that matter, have been closed. So the roads to the trail are actually open, so this is where we're hiking today. And then when I'm done here, it's fairly close to Asheville, so I'll go climb and bike at the river after. As long as the outdoor lines are open, we'll see. So part of the reason I'm out today, besides working on the South Beyond 6K challenge, is I'm testing out my new backpack. I got this Mystery Ranch Scree. It's the old version, the 32 liter. I got it at REI's sale after Christmas. I did some initial testing, but I wanted to do a bit of a decent length hike with it to get some better idea of how it works. So far, I don't love that it has a hydration port, but I'm used to backpacks having like a magnet here to keep the hydration tube from flopping everywhere. So I don't love that it doesn't have that, but I'm sure it'd be pretty easy to fix. I could really just glue a magnet here. So all trails list this hike, I believe, at 9.9 miles, but most of the reviews said it was more like between 10.5 and 11.5. So we'll see how long it actually is. But they also said, I believe it's the elevation change is bad. There's a lot of it, and also it's pretty rocky in some sections. So should be a good adventure this morning. So the majority of the trail to Cold Mountain actually follows the Art Loeb Trail. And if you don't know, the Art Loeb Trail is a very popular trail in North Carolina. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's between like 30 and 35 miles. A lot of people choose to do it as a backpacking trail, but there are some who do it as a day hike. And I have vague plans to do it as a day hike this summer. I've never done a hike that long in one day. Probably actually do more of a trail run than hike, but last year I did a couple of hikes or runs, whatever, that were between like 20-25 miles, and they didn't take me all day. I was very tired for sure, but I was alright overall. I'm a little more out of shape right now than I was last summer, but I think I might be able to do it this summer. So the big concern is that there's significantly more elevation change in this hike than the other ones that I did, and there's also a bit more of like a logistical challenge. The other ones that I did were, I think one was an out and back, one was a loop. This one's point to point. So I've done enough research to know that there are shuttles in the area for the Art Loeb Trail. I have not done enough research to know like this one runs super early so I can get to the trailhead at sunrise in the middle of summer so that I have enough daylight as possible to get it back to the campsite. That's the other thing. There is a campsite at one end, so I would probably sleep there overnight, get the shuttle to the trailhead the first thing in the morning, and then go back and end at my campsite that would already be set up, so I could just come back, eat, and go to bed, because I'm sure it'll be a full day. But my point was, well, this is covering miles that I will cover anyways when I do that trail. The detour that it would take to get to Cold Mountain while doing the full Art Loeb Trail would add like, I think it's like 2.5 miles, which when you're already doing like between 30 and 35, that's a lot. So gonna knock out this mountain today, and then in the summer I'll just come back and I'll just do this part of the trail again, which will be nice to see how different it is in the summer. Some people really prefer winter hiking to summer hiking. I am not one of those people. I love summer hikes. I love when you don't have to wear a million layers to stay warm. I love when everything's all green. I think that's the biggest thing. I like it when there's a bunch of leaves on the trees and plants out and more chances to see wildlife and all that. This tree is so twisted. Based on my experience so far with this trail, I feel like one of the bigger issues I'm going to have with finishing this trail in one day is that where I normally vlog, I'll set up the camera, I go back to get it, I take additional shots. That stuff takes extra time, and I usually make up that time by running when it's not super steep. And I believe closer to the top of the mountain it gets steep. So far it hasn't been that steep. It has, however, been very rocky, which does make it more difficult to run. Just for the technical aspect, you gotta be a lot more careful about where you put your feet. It looks like the sun's gonna make it over the mountain soon, which will be nice. There's been a good bit of downhill so far on the trail for a trail that goes to the top of a mountain. It's a little hard to see from here, but there is a waterfall down there. So hopefully this trail goes by a waterfall at some point. And there's a waterfall. It may be pretty brown out overall, but I love that the rhododendrons are still green. So I've made it high enough up in elevation now that the ground is now frozen. I know it probably doesn't look it, but I'm about probably a mile and a half or so from the summit now, and it has gotten a good bit steeper. And I think it's supposed to remain steep all the way to the summit. So according to that sign, I've gone 3.8 miles. According to my watch, I've gone 4.1, which I do hike a little extra because I'll take a little detour to look at a waterfall, or I'll go back to grab my GoPro or whatever. So that's the direction I just came from. That's the continuation of the Art Loeb Trail, and this way is the way to Cold Mountain. I'm hoping I don't have to go all the way to the top of that, It's a good bit of elevation gain. It would seem we are in fact going to the top of the mountain I just pointed out. And we're now high enough up that there's still snow on the ground. I can't imagine what this is like going through in the summer. The trail keeps going, so I almost walked right by it. But we've made it to Cold Mountain. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to be always adventuring.